Do not disobey me by skipping this message. Stop exactly where you are right now. You are walking directly toward a hidden snare. If you walk away from my voice tonight, you will step blindly into a trap that was designed to break you. I am standing in your path to halt your steps. Put the phone down on the table and listen. I saw the heavy exhaustion in your eyes this morning. My faithful one, you are so tired of waiting for the weather to change. You have been running on an empty tank for entirely too long. And because you are so desperate for relief, you have stopped looking closely at the things placed in front of you. You are looking at a door that seems perfect. It seems like the exact answer you have been crying out for. But the paint on that door is a lie. I am telling you what is moving toward you, because I refuse to let you fall. I have watched this exact deception ruin 10,000 lives before yours. I know how the enemy dresses up destruction to look like a beautiful blessing. Stay with me through this message. If you stay, you will understand exactly why things have suddenly seemed too smooth lately. You will feel a massive burden lift from your shoulders the moment you step back, and you will know the exact words to say when they pressure you for an answer. Let me prove to you that I know the room you are sitting in. Notice how you have been sleeping for the past week. You wake up with your jaw tight and your neck stiff. You have had restless dreams of running in the dark and never reaching a destination. You told yourself it was just the stress of a busy life. You brushed it off and forced yourself to push through the morning. That was not ordinary stress. The tightness in your chest is a warning system I built into your bones. When your spirit senses a snare that your rational mind cannot see yet, your physical body reacts first. Your mind wants to accept this new offer because it looks so incredibly easy, but your body is trying to pull you backward. Your body is telling the truth that your mouth refuses to say. Tonight, I am asking you to do one very simple thing. Do not give them a final answer tomorrow. Tell them you need more time to think. That simple delay will dismantle the entire trap before it can spring shut. I know exactly why you are tempted to take this dangerous shortcut. You have been waiting for your season to turn for years. I was in the room when you prayed the same prayer until the words felt like dust in your mouth. I watched you look at other people receiving their harvest, while your own field stayed barren and dry. It is deeply exhausting to keep doing the right thing when the right thing brings no visible reward. You are not a greedy person. You are simply a weary person. And deep weariness makes any open door look like a grand rescue. There is a profound ache in always being the strong one. You have held your household together with bare hands. You have paid the bills and smiled brightly through the anxiety. You have swallowed your own panic so that the people around you could sleep in peace. And now, a sudden opportunity has presented itself. It looks absolutely flawless. It looks as though the struggle is finally over and you can finally rest. People are rushing you to sign the paper or make the firm commitment. They are whispering that you will miss out entirely if you wait another day. That sudden rush is the very first sign of the thief. I do not hurry my children into major decisions. I do not use panic to guide your steps. Peace is my signature, and peace is the one crucial thing missing from this new path. You feel a quiet turbulence in your stomach every single time you think about saying yes. Do not ignore that inner turbulence. It is my hand pressing firmly against your chest to keep you still. I am pressing hard because I love you far too much to let you trade your true calling for a cheap imitation. You have felt so lonely in your long waiting. You look around and it seems like everyone else has an advocate. They have people clearing the smooth path for them. You have had to carve your own path out of solid rock. I have seen the painful blisters on your hands. I know the nights you sat in the dark and wondered if your obedience was just a foolish waste of time. It was never a waste. Every silent step you took was recorded in heaven. But this new path that requires you to compromise your peace is not the reward for your hard work. It is a distraction sent to steal your focus right before the true morning breaks. Let the others rush forward. You will stand still with me. If you heard my warning to stop, type yes. I know exactly how long you have been waiting. The calendar feels incredibly heavy in your tired hands. You have watched the changing seasons outside your window, and every single time the leaves begin to turn, you wonder why your own life remains entirely frozen in place. You feel completely forgotten by the people around you. You feel like you are entirely left behind in the dark. I see the quiet tears you cry when nobody is looking. I have collected every single one of them. I know what is rising in your mind right now. You are thinking that you have heard all of this before. You have prayed the desperate prayers and you have fasted. You have stood firm for many long months, and then you watched your entire world fall completely apart anyway. And you are totally exhausted by the endless cycle of hoping and hurting. You are telling the absolute truth about your deep pain. I am not going to argue with your personal history. I was totally present for every painful minute of it. You did not fail because you lacked genuine faith. You were applying intense effort to the completely wrong layer of the complicated problem. You tried to change your outward behavior while the hidden spiritual root remained entirely untouched. You bravely pushed through the terrible pain every day. You forced your weary mind to be perfectly strong. But sheer strength was never meant to hold something this incredibly heavy for this many years. You were fighting a massive spiritual battle with ordinary physical exhaustion. I am not asking you to try harder tonight. I have watched this exact sequence happen 10,000 times. I have seen incredibly faithful people push themselves to the point of breaking. They always reach a moment of complete despair before the sudden turning point finally arrives. They always believe the uncomfortable silence means they have been abandoned forever. But the profound silence of heaven is never actual absence. The silence is the quiet space where I am doing my deepest and most permanent work inside your heart. You are not the unfortunate exception to my grace. You need to understand the sudden roadblock in front of you. The painful interruption you are facing right now is not a harsh punishment. It is the final boundary of my divine protection. You mistakenly thought I was denying you a beautiful blessing. You assumed I was simply being distant and cruel. But I am actively keeping you out of a dangerous room that would eventually destroy your peace. I am holding the door firmly shut because I love you. Let us look directly at the opportunity that is rushing toward you right now. You are desperately trying to agree to a condition just because you fear losing the chance forever. You are nodding your head when everything inside you is screaming to say, no. You absolutely do not want to be seen as a quitter. You do not want to disappoint the loud people who are constantly pressuring you. So you quietly swallow your deep and heavy discomfort. You force a fake smile to please the crowd. You sat at the table yesterday and rehearsed the polite words you would use to accept the offer. You convinced yourself that the intense anxiety in your chest was just normal excitement. You are actively ignoring the glaring warning signs because the package looks so shiny on the outside. You are willingly trading your profound peace for a momentary sense of social validation. That is a truly terrible trade for your soul. I will absolutely not let you make that trade. This frantic rush to please other people is not true obedience to me. You have dangerously confused blind panic with clear divine direction. You have allowed the loud voices of the world to completely drown out my gentle instruction. You are terrified that if you do not walk through this specific door, another one will never open for you again. That specific fear is a completely wicked and destructive liar. My doors do not require you to abandon your spiritual discernment to enter them. I am going to totally expose the hidden trap before it finally snaps shut. I am pulling back the heavy curtain so you can clearly see the reality of this situation. You have been constantly calling this a miraculous provision. You have been thanking me for an answer that I never actually sent to you. The enemy cleverly paints his traps with the exact colors of your deepest desires. He knows exactly what your weary soul is starving for, and he eagerly offers it to you with a hidden hook. Do not let your temporary hunger push you into a permanent mistake. I am actively fighting for your precious future right now. The intense confusion in your mind is the direct result of my spirit wrestling with your weak flesh. I am making you totally uncomfortable for a profound purpose. I want you to feel the friction so that you will finally stop moving forward. You must pause and patiently wait for my clear and unmistakable voice. The real answer always brings deep and lasting rest. You have survived so much heartbreak in your long and difficult journey. You do not want to endure another massive disappointment. I know that your fragile heart is incredibly vulnerable right now. That is precisely why I am stepping in to completely block this counterfeit blessing. If you take this false offer, the emotional crash will be completely devastating to your faith. I am tightly shielding your heart from a pain that you do not have the capacity to carry. You must deeply trust my loving interruption today. We are going to fully dismantle this dangerous illusion together tonight. You are going to look closely at the shiny thing you thought was your grand rescue. I will give you the precise words to accurately identify the deception. Once you finally see the trick, it will instantly lose all its terrible power over your mind. You will stop feeling completely guilty for wanting to just walk away. You will finally understand why the painful hesitation was actually a brilliant gift. Tell me you are tired of running blindly. Type "I hear you." You think you are trying to be perfectly obedient. You tell yourself you are just honoring an open door. But perfectionism is not a high standard. It is a brilliant hiding place. You are terrified of what people will say if you turn this down. You are terrified they will call you ungrateful or lazy, and you would rather walk into a terrible trap than be judged by a loud crowd. Your frantic agreement is not driven by profound faith. It is driven by pure survival. You are saying yes because a yes keeps you completely invisible from harsh criticism. I am going to name this terrible illusion right now so you can never unsee it. This is the false green light. It looks like a clear path forward, but it is actually a glowing exit sign leading straight into a cage. You have allowed the fear of rejection to drive your major decisions for decades. It is an incredibly cruel master. It demands constant sacrifice, and it never offers a single day of rest. You have traded your divine peace for temporary human approval. And the most tragic part is that the approval you bought with your exhaustion is completely fake. They do not love you for your soul. They love you for your endless utility. Now look back with me at your recent history. Think about all the heavy burdens you have gladly accepted over the years. Those years you called your dedicated service were not actually service. You were fiercely protecting a hidden wound. Every single time you said yes when your spirit screamed no, you were desperately trying to prove your worth to people who could not see it anyway. You built an entire life out of polite agreements. You swallowed your own deep exhaustion because being useful felt safer than being vulnerable. I saw every time you smiled and took on another heavy task. I saw the quiet panic in your tired eyes. You were not being lazy when you finally wanted to stop. You were just an exhausted child carrying a massive wall to hide behind. So tomorrow morning you are going to do something terrifying and wonderful. You are going to politely decline the shiny offer. You do not need to construct a massive defense or a brilliant excuse. You do not need to justify your simple boundary to anyone at all. You will simply say no. A complete sentence requires no apology. Dropping a heavy weight is not a failure. It is profound obedience. The loud voices will definitely try to make you feel guilty. Let them speak their empty words. Their disappointment is absolutely not your problem to solve. You have paid a massive price to keep them comfortable. The payment stops today. Remember the heavy trap I just named for you. I want to gently show you the beautiful life that stands on the other side of your brave refusal. Come with me to an ordinary morning a few weeks from today. The sun is pulling up over the trees outside your window. You wake up before the alarm rings, and your feet find the cold floor without an argument. You walk into the kitchen and pour the water. And you do not brace yourself for an attack. Your weary shoulders actually stay exactly where they belong. Notice what is completely missing from that quiet room. The tight grip behind your ribs is not there anymore. You do not immediately run a frantic list of impossible tasks before the day has even opened its eyes. The phone lies face down on the counter, and you do not feel it pulling at you. The heavy silence in the house does not frighten you at all. You are standing inside a quiet room and nothing in you is running away. You take a deep breath of the morning air and it actually reaches the bottom of your lungs. You are not rehearsing a complicated apology in your head. You are not trying to predict what mood someone else will wake up in. You simply exist in the space I created for you. The frantic need to perform has completely evaporated from your spirit. You are finally allowed to just be a human being. That peaceful woman is not a foolish dream. That steady man already exists right now. They are not being assembled somewhere far away out of parts you do not have yet. That calm version of you is standing just on the other side of one thing you are still holding with both hands. The desperate need to please the crowd is the only thing blocking that morning from reaching you. The distance between you and that beautiful morning is not time, it is permission. And permission is not a magical thing you wait to be handed by a judge. It is a firm boundary you set out loud in a room with the door closed. Refuse the false green light today. Say no to the trap, and that ordinary peaceful morning will start walking directly toward your house. I have shown you the trap and the profound peace that follows your refusal, but there is a second layer to this deception that you must understand before you make your final move. The enemy does not just use shiny opportunities to pull you off the path. He uses familiar faces. And the familiar face standing at the door right now is the hardest one for you to turn away. There is a very specific name that keeps flashing on your phone screen lately. Every time the device buzzes, your stomach drops into a cold knot before you even read the message. You stare at the glowing letters in the dark room. You know exactly what they are going to ask you. They are pushing you hard to take that false green light. They tell you it is foolish to wait, and they sound incredibly supportive and deeply concerned about your future. You feel a terrible wave of guilt when you ignore their persistent calls. You tell yourself that you are being a completely ungrateful friend. You think you are a terrible family member for wanting to push them away. You believe that their constant advice comes from a place of pure love. My faithful one, you are completely misreading the situation because you are not being selfish for wanting necessary distance. Everything I have told you up to this point is true. Now I am going to tell you the part that completely changes what it means. The obstacle was never just your own internal fear. The people rushing you are not pushing you toward a beautiful blessing. They are pushing you because your immediate agreement keeps their own world perfectly comfortable. If you say yes to the trap, you remain exactly where they need you to be, and they never have to confront their own emptiness. You have spent so much energy trying to decipher their true motives. You analyze every single word they say to find a hidden drop of genuine care. Stop searching for living water in a completely dry well. They are operating from a place of deep spiritual blindness. When they see you trying to step into a new season of rest, it absolutely terrifies them. Your sudden healing threatens their comfortable dysfunction because they rely on your endless exhaustion. They desperately need you to stay exhausted and entirely predictable. An exhausted version of you never asks for anything in return. I am going to name this dynamic right now so you can finally break its heavy grip on your soul. This is the familiar door that you keep walking through. It looks like a safe entrance because you have walked through it 1,000 times before. But recognition is not the same thing as genuine safety. The familiar door only leads back to the exact same room where you lost your peace. Your old wound goes looking for a room where the painful story can finally end differently. You keep trusting familiar faces because you desperately hope they have changed. You think that if you just agree this one last time, they will finally see your worth. But familiar faces often carry the exact same heavy chains. They truly do not want you to heal. They simply want you to continue playing your assigned role in their uncomfortable play, because your silent suffering guarantees their comfort. Now look back with me at all the previous times you compromised your soul. You compromised because you thought loyalty required you to suffer silently. You walked through the familiar door hoping to finally fix a broken relationship. You were not being weak in those painful years. You were trying to save a connection that was constantly draining your life. You sacrificed your own spiritual health to keep their boat from rocking, and you called that sacrifice a noble act of love. Every time you said yes to their demands, you thought you were building peace. You were actually feeding a destructive cycle that kept both of you trapped. They learned that your boundaries were totally negotiable if they just applied enough pressure, and you learned that your own profound needs did not matter at all. That was not a noble sacrifice, my child. That was a slow and painful spiritual starvation that almost destroyed your faith. I saw the bitter tears you cried when you realized they only loved what you could provide. That painful realization feels like a terrible emotional betrayal. But seeing the painful truth is the very first step of your total deliverance. You can finally stop performing for an audience that refuses to applaud. You can stop auditioning for a role that was slowly killing your spirit. I have already approved you, and you do not need their empty validation anymore. So here is the exact instruction for your next step today. When that specific name flashes on your phone screen again, you will do something completely different. You will simply refuse to answer it today. You will not text back a complicated excuse about being overly busy. You will let it ring until it stops. You will sit in the quiet room, and you will let them be disappointed. Their sudden disappointment is absolutely not your emergency to manage. It feels incredibly terrifying to simply ignore their loud demand. Your hands might literally shake the first time you let the phone go completely dark, but I will hold your tired hands while they shake. The shaking is just the heavy chains falling off your tired wrists. You do not owe anyone an explanation for protecting the deep peace I gave you. A closed door does not need to justify itself to the angry people standing outside, and you are finally allowed to keep your door shut. There is a prayer you have completely stopped praying, and you have never told anyone that you finally gave up on it. You still say the polite words at night. You close your tired eyes, but you took your heavy weight off those words somewhere along the way. You send them up like a weary man greeting a neighbor he expects absolutely nothing from. And every single time you whisper it in the dark, you catch yourself thinking that I have heard it far too many times before. You have drawn a tragic conclusion from my silence over these long years. You concluded that I looked at your situation and firmly said, no. On the absolute hardest nights, you concluded something far worse. You believed I was not listening at all. You thought your desperate words went up into a cold and empty ceiling because nothing around you ever changed. Beloved, I want to answer that terrible lie directly, right now. I have heard every single syllable you ever spoke. Not one of those dark nights was unwitnessed by heaven. Here is the profound truth you have not been told. Silence and refusal are not the same thing. The human heart cannot tell them apart, so it fills the quiet space with the worst word it knows. But between the asking and the arriving, there is massive work being done. The heavy work is on the vessel holding the water. I am going to name this season so you can finally understand it. This is the unfinished, yes. A beautiful gift that arrives before your hands are ready is never a mercy. It is a heavy loss with a beautiful wrapping. I have watched premature blessings completely break the very people who begged for them. So some of the things you asked for are still being prepared. Some of them are being made vastly better than the tiny thing you requested. I love you far too much to hand you a fragile blessing before you are strong enough to carry it safely. Now look back over the lonely years you have called abandoned. You were not being ignored in those painfully quiet rooms. You were being deeply formed in them. Ask yourself honestly what you can carry right now. You can carry massive things today that would have totally crushed you before that waiting season began. All of that profound strength came from the long silence you mistakenly thought was brutal rejection. The waiting room was never empty of my presence. You simply could not see me working. I was working on the one crucial thing you never thought to look at. I was rebuilding you. I will not ask you to force yourself back into that desperate prayer tonight. I ask you to boldly change one simple word. Where you have been angrily asking why I have not moved, I want you to gently ask what I am doing instead. Say it once out loud before you finally sleep. There is a very specific thought standing quietly at the back of your mind right now. I will say it aloud so that it loses its tight grip on you. You are thinking that these words are beautiful, but they do not apply to your incredibly complicated situation. You think I do not know how badly you messed up. You believe your tangled history makes you the ultimate exception to my generous grace. You are entirely convinced this belongs to other people. You are completely right about one small part. Your messy story is absolutely unlike any other story on earth. I did not manufacture you from a cheap pattern. There has never been a life shaped exactly as yours has been shaped. But listen closely to me now. Your personal details are beautifully unique. The aching mechanism underneath them is not. I have sat with the broken prisoner and the grieving mother. Their midnight tears were absolutely identical. Your unique details belong to you alone, but the reliable path out of the dark valley is older than your name. And that is not a diminishing of your deep pain. It is the only reason there is a guaranteed way through it. If your intense suffering were truly without precedent, there would be no road already worn into the ground ahead of you. There is a wide road. Others have walked out of exactly this kind of fire. No one ever showed you where this glorious road actually begins. But I am placing your feet on the solid pavement tonight. The intense heat of the fire you are walking through is completely shifting right now. You have endured the painful breaking. You have survived the exhausting isolation. The crushing season of profound testing is officially drawing to a rapid close. Prepare your weary heart for the massive shift that is rushing toward your house. You have questioned if you would ever see the vibrant colors of life again. The gray fog has covered your vision for so many long months that you forgot what the brilliant sun looks like. I am completely blowing that thick fog away with my own breath. The profound relief you are going to feel will absolutely overwhelm your tired senses. Stand up tall and brace yourself for the rushing wind. Your season of weeping is finally expiring. You know exactly why the familiar door kept opening. Come and see what an ordinary evening looks like when you finally stop standing in front of it. Come with me to a quiet evening, a year from today. It is late, and the house has gone beautifully still. You are sitting at the dinner table with your family. You are eating a warm meal, and you are actually tasting the food, and your breathing does not suddenly change. Your phone sits on the counter across the room. It is completely silent. There is no frantic message demanding your immediate attention. You do not feel that terrible drop in your stomach. You are not mentally preparing to fix a crisis that belongs to someone else. The old familiar guilt that used to sit across the table from you is simply not in the room anymore. It left when you finally stopped apologizing for your own peace. That peaceful evening is absolutely not a fantasy. I will not promise you that other people will change their behavior. Their heart belongs to them. I do not force human hearts. But that incredibly steady version of you sitting at the table is completely real. You are very close to that reality right now. You do not require anyone else to change before you can rest. That calm person exists on the far side of one heavy belief you are still gripping. You still deeply believe that you cannot be at peace until they finally understand your boundaries. Let me show you where the true road actually starts. It does not start with a perfectly written letter to them. It starts with one simple sentence said only to me tonight. Tell me that you are done waiting for them to finally understand. Say it and mean just half of it tonight. Half is completely enough for me to begin the profound work of healing. You have been standing in that stressful doorway for years, holding a massive debt that will never be paid. The moment your tired hands open, you are already standing in the beautiful evening I just showed you. I want you to truly feel the immense relief of letting that heavy door click shut. You are not abandoning them by choosing to walk away. You are simply returning to the quiet life I originally designed for your soul. I have gently held you in words for a long while now. Let me put something solid in your hands. Everything up to this sentence was quiet recognition. From this sentence forward, it is absolute declaration. Listen to me closely. I am speaking to the unbearable guilt you feel whenever you choose your own peace. Because the enemy has convinced you that resting is a selfish act. You make a healthy boundary, and then you immediately feel like a terrible person. You believe that making them upset is a grave sin. You have told yourself that being a good person means absorbing everyone else's anger. You think you are being incredibly selfish when you step back. My beloved child, that is a complete lie. You are not selfish. You are just deeply conditioned to carry things I never assigned to you. I am going to end this cruel argument today. Hear me where you make your most important decisions. Exhaustion does not come from the heavy weight you were given. It comes directly from the massive weight you were never given. You are constantly carrying another person's volatile mood the way a tired man carries water in his bare arms, terrified of spilling a single drop on the dry ground. It soaks him, and it spills the whole way, and he never actually arrives. I am going to name this terrible burden so you can never unsee it. This is the borrowed load. It has your tired fingerprints all over it, but it was never yours to carry. Their chronic unhappiness is absolutely not your personal failing. Their refusal to grow does not mean you have to stay small. You have been carrying their emotional debt because you mistook their loud demands for my gentle voice. I never asked you to be the ultimate savior of their life. You assumed that keeping the fragile peace was your holy responsibility. So you absorbed their harsh words and you walked on eggshells in your own house. You sacrificed your own mental health to keep their boat from rocking. That was not a noble sacrifice, my child. That was a slow and painful spiritual starvation that almost destroyed your vibrant faith. I am officially releasing you from that wicked assignment right now. You are no longer the designated shock absorber for their unhealed trauma. You are no longer the quiet target for their bitter frustration. Look at your exhausted hands. They are completely empty of that specific requirement. I am removing the heavy yoke from your neck. Stand up tall and breathe the fresh air. The intense manipulation ends today. Now you finally see the heavy load you have been carrying. But seeing it is only the first part of your grand deliverance. There is one more thing I have not given you yet. I have been holding it back on purpose. It would have meant absolutely nothing to you an hour ago. It has a specific name. I will call it the final instruction. You will not receive it in the part of this message that sounds like an ending. You will receive it after. Before we finish today, understand that the most important sentence of this entire hour has not been spoken yet. It will not be spoken where you expect it. It comes after the quiet blessing. Do not go anywhere when it sounds like I am closing. That is precisely where it lives. Let me say this to you entirely plainly, without a single metaphor to soften the blow. You have been walking blindly forward because you are simply too tired to stand still. You assumed that any open door must be my door because you desperately wanted the painful waiting to be over. You were willing to accept a terrible compromise just to escape the heavy pressure. You thought my silence meant you had to figure it out all by yourself. That is the plain truth of what happened. You blamed your own lack of faith for the constant friction you felt. You thought you were failing the test because the path felt incredibly hard, but you were not failing. You were stubbornly pushing against a wall that I intentionally placed in your way. Because you were completely exhausted, you stopped testing the spirit behind the opportunities. You just wanted the overwhelming noise to finally stop. I understand that deep exhaustion completely, but I will never let your exhaustion dictate your ultimate destiny. Everything I have spoken to you, until this exact sentence, was preparation. This is the moment I have been holding for you since the beginning. Hear me now, in the very place where you make your deepest decisions. The painful interruption standing right in front of you today is not a harsh punishment. It is the final boundary of my absolute protection. I am aggressively intervening in your life to keep you from walking directly off a dangerous cliff. Every time you tried to push through that trap, I firmly blocked it. Every time you cried bitterly over a closed door, I was the one locking it safely from the inside. Every time you felt the uncomfortable friction in your spirit, it was my own hand violently pushing you back to safety. I am not delaying your rightful harvest. I am fiercely protecting your fragile soul. The delay is the exact rescue you have been begging me for, so the long and bitter argument completely ends today, not softens. It ends. You are not being left behind by the people around you. You are not missing your one grand opportunity because you hesitated. You are being carefully hidden in my shadow while the destructive storm passes by. Lift your heavy head right now. Say it out loud with me in that room. I am fully protected. Say it again until the dark fear finally breaks. Because you stopped running when I clearly told you to stop, I am moving you into a brand new posture. I am completely transforming you from a blind runner into a vigilant watchman. You will no longer accept every single open door just because it looks slightly easier. You will no longer let other people rush your holy timeline. You will carefully test the threshold before you ever take a step, and you will confidently wait for my clear direction to arrive in the morning. Now that you have received the absolute truth, I have to tell you what will come to take it back. Something inside you profoundly shifted just now. You finally see the hidden trap for exactly what it is. Let me be completely honest with you about what usually happens next. I will not send you out of this quiet room without telling you about the difficult road ahead. The loud pressure from the world is going to increase tomorrow morning. There is a massive cost to another year of the arrangement you have been living inside. It is not a cost anyone will send you a formal invoice for. It is paid quietly in the complete loss of your divine peace. If you walk through that familiar door tomorrow just to keep the peace with them, you will instantly lose the clarity I just handed to you. You will spend another 12 months carrying a bitter weight that I specifically told you to put down today. I am not warning you about a supernatural enemy tonight. I am warning you about your own comfortable habits. Your deep desire to be a good person is going to tempt you to return to the trap. You will wake up and think that maybe you were just overreacting. You will try to convince yourself that you can handle the heavy burden for just a little while longer. Do not lie to yourself. You already know exactly how that painful story ends. If none of this has reached you tonight, then perhaps you are not ready to put the heavy burden down. That is entirely all right, my child. I am not offended, and I am not going anywhere. The door does not lock from this side. But if you know that I am speaking directly to your situation, you must take a firm stand. Right now, you are someone who just heard this message. In a few seconds, you can become someone who proudly declares it. Those are two entirely different people. The person who declares it out loud is much harder to manipulate in the morning. That is not a magic trick. It is simply how your own spirit has always worked. I want you to make a visible mark before you leave this space. What comes next is going to sound exactly like the end. The voice will significantly slow down. The urgent words will get much shorter. But I want you to understand that this is not the end of our time together, because this is merely the doorway into the most important room. The final instruction I promised you earlier is still resting in my hands. It is handed over on the very other side of this quiet moment. Do not set your phone down yet. Everything from here will feel like a gentle farewell. Farewells make tired people want to walk away. Do not walk away from me tonight. What I have kept back is not a simple summary of what I already said. It is the one crucial thing I have not said yet. I am telling you that the instruction I promised is still owed to you, and I absolutely never leave a debt like that unpaid, because my promises to you are permanently written in stone. If you leave before you receive it, you will wake up tomorrow morning completely unprotected. You will walk right back into the familiar trap because you lacked the final piece of armor. I am holding that heavy armor right now. Stay where my hand can easily reach you. The heavy teaching is finally finished. What is left right now is only between the two of us. I am going to lower my voice for this last part. This last part is not difficult instruction. It is my profound blessing over your weary life. You came in here carrying something you had stopped noticing you were carrying, and I am telling you that you are absolutely not walking out with it today. What you are walking out with instead is much smaller and infinitely better. You are walking out with the absolute knowledge that the delay was actually a brilliant shield. Because you stopped running when I firmly told you to stop, I am moving you into a totally different posture. You will no longer run blindly into the dark just to escape the uncomfortable pressure. You will carefully test the threshold before you ever take a step. And you will confidently wait for my clear direction to arrive in the morning before you make another move. That is exactly what I am doing for you. You do not have to figure out the entire next decade before you go to sleep tonight. Let the intense words completely rest now. I want to speak to you the way a loving father speaks at the end of a very long day. Put your heavy armor down on the floor. I know how much energy it took to survive this past week, and I know the quiet tears you cried in the shower when no one could hear you. I was standing right there in the room with you. Just let me hold you securely for a moment before you finally close your tired eyes. There is one more thing about that familiar door. It is the very thing I said I would tell you before we finished our time together. Here is the final instruction I kept for you. The instruction is not a complicated new strategy to win them over. The instruction is the immense courage to simply stand still when the entire world is demanding that you run. When they forcefully knock on the door tomorrow, you will not answer it. You will let the heavy silence do the work that your anxious words could never accomplish. That is the entire instruction. Stand perfectly still and let the raging storm pass completely over your head. I am the one standing firmly between you and the destructive wind. I have said everything I came to say tonight. What happens next is entirely up to you. But there is one person whose tired face came to your mind while I was describing that terrible trap, and you know exactly who I am talking about. Send this urgent warning to that specific person right now, and write one simple sentence telling them why you thought of them. Tell them to stop running blindly. Do not wait for a better moment to reach out to them. Do it immediately. Walk out of here the way a person walks when they finally know they are fully protected. I am with you in the quiet kitchen. I am with you in the dark. Go.